Let everyone hear the word of God. Help us develop the channel with your subscription. And Jacob heard the words of the sons of Laban, who said, Jacob has taken possession of all that our father had, and from our father's possessions he has made all this wealth. And Jacob saw Laban's face, and behold, it was not so toward him as it was yesterday and the third day. And the Lord said to Jacob, Return to the land of your fathers and to your homeland, and I will be with you. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah into the field, to the flock of his little cattle. And he said to them, I see the face of your father, that it is not toward me as it was yesterday, and the third day, but the God of my father was with me. You yourselves know that I have served your father with all my strength. But your father deceived me, and changed my reward 10 times, but God let him do me no harm. When he said, the speckled cattle will be your reward, all the cattle were born speckled. And when he said, the speckled ones shall be thy reward, the cattle all gave birth to speckled ones. And God took the cattle from your father and gave them to me. Once at such a time as the cattle conceive, I looked and saw in a dream, and behold, the goats that went up to the cattle were mottled and speckled. The angel of God said to me in the dream, Jacob. I said, Here I am. He said, Lift up your eyes, and look, all the goats that have gone up to the cattle are mottled, speckled, and spotted. For I see all that Laban does to you. I am the God who appeared to you in Bethel, where you poured the oil on the monument, and where you made a vow to me. And now rise, go out of this land, and return to the land of your homeland. Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, Do we still have a share and an inheritance in our father's house? Does he not think of us as strangers, for he has sold us and eaten even our silver? Therefore all the wealth that God took from our father is ours, and our children's, as so do all that God has said to you. And Jacob arose, and put his children and his wives on camels, and he took with him all his cattle, and all his wealth that he had acquired, his own cattle that he had acquired in Mesopotamia, to go to Isaac his father to the land of Canaan. And as Laban went to share his cattle, Rachel stole the idols that her father had. And Jacob stole the heart from Laban of Aramean, because he did not notify him that he was going away. And he departed with all that he had on. He rose and crossed the river, and went toward Mount Gilead. On the third day Laban was told that Jacob had gone away. Then he took his relatives with him, and chased him for 7 days, and caught up with him on Mount Gilead. And God came to Laban the Reubenite by night in a dream, and said to him, Be careful not to say good or bad things to Jacob. And Laban overtook Jacob on. Jacob pitched his tent on the mountain, and Laban and his kinsmen pitched on Mount Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, What have you done? Why have you deceived me, and taken away my daughters as captives by arms? Why did you run away secretly, and hide yourself from me, and tell me not? I would have let you go with gladness and with songs, with a tympanum and with psaltery. Thou didst not even allow me to kiss my grandchildren and my daughters. Thou hast done recklessly. There is power in my hand to do you evil, but the God of your father spoke to me yesterday, and said, Beware, speak neither good nor evil to Jacob, but let you go away, because you were impatient to be in your father's house. Why did you steal my gods? Jacob answered Laban and said, I was afraid, for I thought that you would not take your daughters away from me. Whom thou shalt find thy gods, thou shalt not lie in the presence of our kinsmen. Know what I have, and take it for thyself. Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. So Laban went to Jacob's tent, and to Leah's tent, and to the tent of the tomato stands, but he found none. And when he left Leah's tent, he went into Rachel's tent. And Rachel took the idols, and put them under the camel's saddle, and sat on them. And Laban searched the whole tent, but he found none. And she said unto her father, Let not my lord be angry, that I cannot stand up before thee, for I have a woman's common thing. And he searched, but found no idols. Jacob became angry, and got into an argument with Laban. And Jacob began to speak, and said to Laban, What is my fault? What is my sin, that you are pursuing me? Thou hast examined all the things that thou hast found of all the things of the house, to show me here before my kinsmen, and before thy kinsmen, and let them judge between us both. Behold, for 20 years I have been with thee of thy sheep, and thy goats have not thrown out of the sheep of thy flock I have not eaten. I did not bring the flock of the beast to thee, O it was my loss that thou hast exacted it from me, whether it was lost by day, or lost by night. I languished by day with the heat, and by night with the cold, and my sleep escaped my eyes. These are my 20 years in thy house. I served thee 14 years for thy 2 daughters, and 6 years for thy cattle, and thou hast changed my reward 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac, had not been with me, you would now have let me go with nothing. God saw my distress and the toil of my hands, and interceded for me yesterday. And Laban answered and said unto Jacob, Daughters are my daughters, and children are my children, and cattle are my cattle, and all that thou seest is mine. And can I do now what with my daughters, and with their children that are born of them. Now let us make an alliance, I and thou, and this shall be a testimony between me and thee. So Jacob took the stone and set it as a monument. And Jacob said to his relatives, Get some stones. They took the stones, and made a hill, and ate there on the hill. And Laban called it a Jegarsagathphua, and Jacob called it Gilead. And Laban said, Today this hill is a witness between me and you. Therefore its name was called Gilead. And it is called Mizpah, because Laban said, Let the Lord watch over me and over you, when we are hidden from one another. If thou wilt do evil unto my daughters, or if thou take wives over my daughters, though there is no man among us, yet see, God is a witness between me and thee. And Laban said unto Jacob, Behold, this is the hill, and this is the monument which I have set between me and thee. This hill is a witness, and this monument is a witness, that neither I will pass to thee over this hill, nor wilt thou pass to me over this hill and over this monument for evil. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor shall judge between us, the God of their father. Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. And Jacob killed the sacrifice on the mountain, and called his relatives to eat bread, and they ate bread and slept on the mountain. And Laban arose early in the morning, and kissed his grandchildren and his daughters, and blessed them. And Laban Jacob went his way, and the angels of God met him. And Jacob saw them, and said, This is the armies of God. And he called the name of the place Machanaim. And Jacob sent messengers before him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, in the region of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, Thus shalt thou say to my lord Esau, This is what thy servant Jacob saith, I have dwelt with Laban, and have dwelt hitherto. And I have oxen, and asses, and cattle, and maidserstans, and and I have sent to inform my lord, that I may obtain favor in your sight. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, We went to your brother Esau, he is coming to meet you, and 400 men with him. And Jacob was very afraid, and troubled, and he divided the men that were with him, and the cattle small and large, and the camels into 2 camels. And he said, If Esau attacks one camp and beats it, the rest of the camp may be saved. And Jacob said, God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, Lord, who you said to me, Return to your land, to your homeland, and I will do you good. I am not worthy of all the mercies and all the favors that you have done for your servant, for I have crossed over this Jordan with my staff, and now I have 2 camps. Deliver me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him. You said, I will do you good, and I will make your offspring like the sand of the sea, which cannot be counted from the multitude. And Jacob slept there that night, and he took of what he had as a gift for Esau his brother, 200 goats, and 20 goats, and 200 sheep, and 20 sheep, 30 milking camels with their foals, 40 cows, 10 oxen, 20 donkeys, 10 donkeys. And he gave to his servants each of the flock in his hand, and said to his servants, Come before me, and keep the distance from the flock to the herd. And he commanded the first, saying, When my brother Esau meets you, and asks you, saying, Whose are you, and where are you going, and whose flock is this before you? And thou shalt say, The servant Jacob, this is a present sent to my lord Esau, behold, he himself is behind us. He commanded the same to the second, and to the third, and to all who followed the flocks, saying, So say to Esau when you meet him, and say, And behold, your servant Jacob is also behind us. For he said within himself, I will propitiate him with the gifts that go before me, and then I will see his face, or perhaps he will also receive me. And the gifts went before him, and he slept that night in the camp. And he rose up that night, and took his 2 wives, and his 2 maidserstans, and his 11 sons, and waded through Jabbok. And he took them, and waded across the flood, and transferred all that he had. And Jacob was left alone, and one struggled with him until the dawn appeared. And when he saw that he was not overcome, he touched the composition of his thigh, and injured the composition of Jacob's thighs. He wrestled with him. And he said, Let me go, for the dawn has risen. Jacob said, I will not let you go until you bless me. And he said, What is your name, Jacob? He said, Your name shall not be Jacob from now on, but Israel, for you have struggled with God, and with men you shall overcome. And Jacob also asked, saying, Tell me your name. And he said, Why do you ask about my name? And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of that place Peniel, for he said, I have seen God face to face, and my soul is preserved. And the sun came up when he passed Peniel, and he limped on his thigh. Therefore even to this day the children of Israel do not eat the vein that is on the composition of the thigh, because the wrestler touched the vein. Jacob looked up and saw, and behold, Esau was coming, and 400 men with him. And he put the maids and their children in front, Leah and her children behind them, and Rachel and Joseph behind. And he himself went before them, and bowed 7 times to the ground, coming to his brother. And Esau ran towards him, and embraced him. And he looked and saw wives and children, and said, "Who is this that you have?" Jacob said, "The children whom God has given to your servant." And the maidservants and their children came up and bowed down. And Leah and her children also came and bowed down. At last Joseph and Rachel came and bowed. And Esau said, "Why have you this multitude that I have met on?" Jacob said, "To gain favor in the eyes of my Lord." Esau said, "I have much. My brother, let yours be yours." Jacob said, "No, if I have gained favor in your eyes, accept my gift from my hand, for I have seen your face, as one would see the face of God, and you have been favored with me. Accept my blessing, which I have brought you, because God has given me, and I have all things." And he begged him, and he took. And he said, "Let us go up and walk, and I will go before thee." And Jacob said to him, "My Lord knows that my children are gentle, and my flocks and my cattle are milked. If you send them away one day, all the cattle will die. Let my Lord go ahead of his servant, and I will go slowly, as the cattle that are before me go, and as the children go, and I will come to my Lord in Seir." And Esau said, "I will leave with thee a few of the men that are with me." And Jacob said, "Why, I would gain favor in the sight of my Lord." And Esau returned that same day by his way to Seir. And Jacob went to Succoth, and built a house for himself, and made tents for his cattle. From this he called the name of the place Succoth. And Jacob returned safely from Mesopotamia to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan. And he encamped before the city. And he bought part of the field in which he spread out his tent from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for 100 coins. And he set up an altar there, and called Dinah the daughter of Leah, whom she bore to Jacob, went out to look at the daughters of that land. And Shechem the son of Hamor the Hebrew, the prince of that land, saw her, and took her, and slept with her, and abused her. And his soul cleaved to Dinah the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the maiden, and spoke after the maiden's heart. And Shechem said to Hamor his father, saying, "Take me this maiden as a wife." Jacob heard that the son of Hamor had dishonored Dinah, his daughter, but as his sons were with his cattle in the field, Jacob kept silent until they came. And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak to him. And when Jacob's sons came from the field, and when they heard it, they were very angry, and their anger grew, because he had brought dishonor upon Israel by sleeping with Jacob's daughter, and this was not right. And Hamor began to speak to them, and he said to Shechem, "My son has cleaved to your daughter with his soul, give her to him as a wife. Then be kindred with us, and give your daughters to us, and take our daughters to yourselves. This land is before you alive, and make a trade of it, and take possession of it." And Shechem said to her father and to her brethren, "If I may find grace in your eyes, I will give whatever you say to me. Appoint the greatest wages and gifts, I will give whatever you say to me, but only give me the maiden as a wife." And Jacob's sons answered Shechem and Hamor his father with craftiness, and they said so because he had dishonored Dinah their sister. And they said to them, "We cannot do this. Marry our sister to a man who is in circus mates, for it would be dishonorable to us. Only on this condition shall we consent to you, if you are like us, that your whole male sex also shall be circumcised. And we will give our daughters for you, and take your daughters for ourselves, and live with you, and make one people. But if you will not obey us in circumcision, then we will take our daughter, and go away." And these words pleased Hamor and Shechem the son of Hamor. The young man did not hesitate to do this because he loved Jacob's daughter, and he was most esteemed of his father's house. And Hamor and Shechem his son came to the gate of their city, and they spoke to the people of their city, and said, "These men are at peace with us, so let them dwell in the land, and let them make a livelihood in it. Behold, the land is wide before them, and let us take their daughters to be our wives, and let us give our daughters in marriage to them. It is only on this condition that they agree to live with us and to be one people, that all our males may be circumcised as they are circumcised. Are not their flocks and their possessions and all their livestock for us? Only agree with them, and they will live with us." And all that came out of the gate of his city were circumcised, and all the males, all that came out of the gate of his city, were circumcised. On the third day, when they were in sickness, the two sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, the brothers of Dinah, each took his sword, and boldly attacked the city, and slew all the males. And they killed Hamor himself, and Shechem his son, with the sword out, and they took Dinah out of Shechem's house, and went out. And the sons of Jacob came to the slain, and plundered the city, because they had dishonored their sister. They took their small and large cattle, and their donkeys, and whatsoever was in the city, and whatsoever was in the field, and all their wealth, and all their children, and their wives, they took captive, and plundered all that was in the houses. And Jacob said unto Simeon and Levi, "Ye have angered me, making me hateful to the inhabitants of this land, to the Canaanites and the Perizzites. I have few men, and they shall gather against me, and smite me, and I and my house shall be destroyed." And they said, "Is it lawful to do?" God said to Jacob, "Rise, go to Bethel, and live there, and make an altar to God who appeared to you when you fled from the face of Esau your brother. And Jacob said to his house and to all who were with him, throw away the foreign gods that are with you, and cleanse yourselves, and change your clothes. Let us arise, and let us go to Bethel. There I will build an altar to God, who heard me in the day of my distress, and was with me in the way that I went. And they gave Jacob all the foreign gods that were in their hands, and the earrings that were in their ears, and Jacob buried them under the oak tree that is near Shechem. And they departed, and the terror of God was upon the surrounding towns, and the sons of Jacob were not persecuted. And Jacob came to Luz, which is in the land of Canaan, that is Bethel, himself and all the people who were with him. And he built there an altar, and called the place El Bethel, for there God appeared to him when he fled from the face of his brother. And Deborah the nurse of Rebekah died, and was buried below Bethel under the oak tree, which Jacob also called the weeping oak. And God appeared to Jacob on his return from Mesopotamia, and blessed him. And God said to him, your name is Jacob, but from now on you shall not be called Jacob, but your name shall be Israel. And he called his name Israel. And God said to him, I am God Almighty, be fruitful and multiply a nation and a multitude of nations from you, and kings shall come from your loins. The land which I gave to Abraham and Isaac I will give to you, and to your offspring after you I will give this land. And God ascended from him from the place where he had spoken to him. And Jacob set up a monument in the place where God had spoken to him, a monument of stone, and he poured an offering on it, and he poured oil on it. And Jacob called the name of the place where God had spoken to him, Bethel. And they set out from Bethel. And while there was yet some distance of land from Ephrath, Rachel gave birth, and her labor was hard. And when she was suffering in childbirth, the midwife said to her, do not be afraid, for this also is your son. And when her soul was coming out of her, for she was dying, she called his name Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. And Rachel died, and was buried on the road to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. Jacob erected a monument over her tomb. This is Rachel's tombstone to this day. And Israel went and spread out his tent behind the tower of Gadareth. While Israel was in that country, Reuben went and slept with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard it. And Jacob had 12 sons. And Leah's sons were Reuben, Jacob's firstborn son, after him Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. Rachel's sons of Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's maid of Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Zilpah, the maid of Leah, Gad, and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob, born to him in Mesopotamia. And Jacob came to Isaac his father in Mamre, to Kiriath Arba, that is, Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac wandered. And the days of Isaac's life were 180 years. And Isaac gave up his spirit, and died, and laid hold of his people, being old and full of life, and Esau. This is the genealogy of Esau, Edom. Esau took for himself wives of the daughters of Canaan, Adah, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Olivet, the daughter of Anah, the son of Zebin the Hivite, and Wasamatha, the daughter of Ishmael, the sister of Nabiath. Adah gave birth to Esau Eliphaz, and Wasamatha gave birth to Rahul. Olivet gave birth to Jehu, Jeblam, and Koriah. These are the sons of Esau born to him in the land of Canaan. And Esau took his wives, and his sons, and his daughters, and all the men of his house, and his flocks, and all his cattle, and all his possessions, which he had acquired in the land of Canaan, and went into another land on behalf of Jacob his brother. For their possessions were so great that they could not live together, and the land of their wanderings could not hold them, because of the multitude of their flocks. And Esau dwelt on Mount Seir, Esau, Edom. And this is the genealogy of Esau, the father of Edom, on Mount Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz the son of Adah, Esau's wife, and Reuel the son of Washmith, Esau's wife. Eliphaz had sons of Heman, Omar, Zepho, Gatham, and Kens. And Taman was the concubine of Eliphaz the son of Esau, and she bore Amalek to Eliphaz. These are the sons of Adah, the wife of Esau. And these are the sons of Rahulanath and Zerich, Shammah and Mizah. These are the sons of Washmith, the wife of Esau. And these were the sons of Olivet, the daughter of Anah the son of Zibeon. Esau's wife, as she bore Esau, Jebus, Jeblam, and Kor. These are the elders of the sons of Esau. The sons of Eliphaz, Esau's firstborn, elder Heman, elder Omar, elder Tepho, elder Kens, elder Kori, elder Gatham, elder Amalek. These are the elders of Eliphaz in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Adah. These are the sons of Rahul the son of Esau, elder Nath, elder Zerich, elder Shammah, elder Mizah. These are the elders of Rahul in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Washmith, the wife of Esau. These are the sons of Olivet, the wife of Esau, elder Jebus, elder Jeglam, elder Kori. These are the elders of Olivet, the daughters of Anah, the wife of Esau. These are the sons of Esau, and these are their elders. This is Edom. These are the sons of Seir the Horient, who lived in that land, Lotan, Shoval, Sibian, Anna, Disan, Ezer, and Dishan. These are the elders of the Horis, the sons of Seir, in the land of Edom. The sons of Lotan were Hori and Yimina, and the sister of Lotan, Phaman. These are the sons of Shoval, Alban, Naheth, Evil, Shepo, and Onam. These are the sons of Zibinai and Anna. This is that Anna who found warm waters in the wilderness when he was herding the donkeys of Zibian his father. These are the children of Anna, Disan, and Olivema and his daughter. These are the sons of Disan, Ahemdan, Eshban, Ephraim, and Charan. These are the sons of Ezra, Bilgan, Savan, and Achan. These are the sons of Disan, Uz, and Aaron. These are the elders of Horia, elder Lotan, elder Shoval, elder Zibian, elder Anna, elder Disan, elder Ezra, elder Dishan. These are the elders of the Hris, according to their elders in the land of Seir. These are the kings who reigned in the land of Edom, before the kings reigned among the children of Israel. Bela the son of Boer reigned in Edom, and the name of his city was Dingahaba. And Bela died, and Job the son of Zerach king of Boer reigned after him. Jobab died, and Husham, of the land of the Themanites, reigned over him. And Husham died, and Gadad the son of Bedad reigned after him, who smote the Midianites in the field of Moab. His name was Abib. And Gadad died, and Samlah of Masrek reigned after him. And Samlah died, and Saul of Rehoboth that is by the river reigned over him. And Saul died, and Baal-Hanan the son of Achor reigned over him. And Baal-Hanan the son of Achor died, and Gadar reigned after him. The name of his city was Pau. The name of his wife was Megabal, the daughter of Matri the son of Mezagog. These are the names of the elders of Esau, after their tribes, after their places, after their names: elder Phimna, elder Elba, elder Jephthah, elder Elevim, elder Elah, elder Pinan, elder Keynes, elder Pheman, elder Midstar, elder Majali, elder Aram. Behold the elders of Edom, according to their villages, in the land of their possession. Here is Jacob dwelt in the land of his fathers, wandering in the land of Canaan. This is the life of Jacob. And Joseph, when he was 17 years old, was tending cattle with his brothers, being a lad, with the sons of Bilhah and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought bad tidings of them to their father. Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a variegated robe. And his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, and they hated him, and could not speak to him in a friendly way. And Joseph saw the dream, and told it to his brothers, and they hated him still more. He said to them, Hear the dream that I have had. Behold, we are knitting sheaves in the middle of the field, and behold, my sheaves stand upright, and behold, your sheaves stand round about, and bow to my sheaves. And his brothers said to him, Will you really reign over us, or will you really have dominion over us? And they hated him all the more for his dreams and his words. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it to his brethren, saying, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars worship me. And he told it to his father and his brothers. And his father scolded him, saying, What kind of a dream is this that you had, do I and your mother and your brothers come to worship you to the ground? His brothers were vexed with him, and his father noticed the word. His brothers went to shepherd their father's cattle in Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, Are not your brothers shepherding in Shechem? Come, I will send you to them. And he said to him, Here I am. And he said to him, Go and see if your brothers are well and the cattle are intact, and bring me an answer. And he sent him out of the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And a man found him wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, What are you looking for? He said, I am looking for my brothers. Tell me, where do they graze? And the man said, They are gone from here, for I heard them say, Let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brothers, and found them in Dothan. And they saw him from afar, and before he came near to them they plotted against him to kill him. And they said to one another, Behold, a dreamer is coming. Now let us go and kill him, and cast him into some pit, and say, The beast of prey hath eaten him, and we shall see what his dream shall be. And Reuben heard this, and delivered him out of their hands, saying, We will not kill him. And Reuben said to them, Don't shed blood, throw him into the moat that is in the wilderness, but don't lay hands on him. And he said these things to deliver him out of their hands, and to bring him back to his father. When Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped Joseph of his clothes, the multicolored garment that was on him, and they took him and threw him into the ditch, and it was empty, there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat bread, and when they looked, they saw that a caravan of Ishmael came out of Gilead, and their camels bore rubbish, balm, and frankincense, and were going to deliver these things into Egypt. And Jews said unto his brethren, What profit is it, if we kill our brother, and hide his blood? Let us go and sell him to the Ishmaelites, but let our hands not be on him, for he is our brother, our flesh. His brothers obeyed. And when the merchants of Midian passed by, they dragged Joseph out of the ditch, and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they took Joseph to Egypt. And Reuben came again to the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, and he tore his clothes. And he returned to his brethren, and said, The lad is gone out, and where shall I go? And they took Joseph's clothes, and stabbed the goat, and drenched his clothes with blood. And they sent variegated clothes, and brought them to their father, and said, We have found this to see whether it is your son's or not. And he recognized it, and said, This is my son's raiment, and the beast of prey hath devoured him, as surely Joseph is torn. And Jacob tore his clothes, and laid the sackcloth upon his loins, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters were gathered together to comfort him, but he would not be comforted. And he said, I will go down into the pit of hell to my son with sorrow. So his father mourned for him. And the Midianites sold him in Egypt to Potiphar the king of Pharaoh. At that time Judah departed from his brothers, and dwelt among a certain Odolamite, whose name was Hira. And Judah saw there the daughter of a Canaanite, whose name was Shua, and he took her, and went into her. She conceived and bore a son, and he called his name Er. And she conceived again, and begat a son, and called his name Onan. And she also bore a son, and called his name Shelah. Judah was in Hezebah when she bore him. And Judah took a wife to Jerah his firstborn, her name was Tamar. And Judah's firstborn son was displeasing in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord put him to death. And Judah said to Onan, Come into your brother's wife, and marry her as a brother-in-law, and restore your brother's seed. Onan knew that the seed would not be his, so when he went into his brother's wife, he poured out on the ground, so that he would not give the seed to his brother. Evil was before the eyes of the Lord what he was doing, and he put him to death also. And Judah said to Tamar his daughter-in-law, You shall lie as a widow in your father's house, until Shelah my son grows up. For he said, Let him not die like his brothers. So Tamar went and lived in her father's house. A long time passed, and Shua's daughter, Judah's wife, died. Judah, being comforted, went to Tamar to share his cattle, himself and Hira, his friend Odolamite. And they notified Tamar, saying, Behold, your father-in-law is going to Tamar to share his cattle. And she stripped herself of her widowhood, and covered herself with a veil, and sat down at the gate of Enam, which is in the way to Tamar. For she saw that Shelah had grown up, and she was not given to him as a wife. And Judah saw her, and reckoned her for a harlot, because she had covered her face. He turned to her and said, I will come into you. For he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. She said, What will you give me if you come into me? He said, I will send you a goat from the flock. She said, Will you give me bail while you send? He said, What kind of bail shall I give you? She said, Your seal, and your bandage, and your cane, which is in your hand. And he gave her, and went into her, and she conceived by him. And she arose and went, and took off her cloak, and put on her widow's robe. And Judah sent a goatskin through his friend the Odolamite, to take the bail out of the woman's hand, but he could not find her. And he asked the inhabitants of that place, saying, Where is the prostitute who was in Enam by the road? But they said, There was no harlot here. So he returned to Judah, and said, I have not found her. And the men of that place said, There was no her here. Judah said, Let her take it, lest they make fun of us. So behold, I sent this goat, but you did not find it. About 3 months passed, and they said to Judah, saying, Tamar your daughter-in-law has fallen into fornication, and behold, she is pregnant with fornication. Judah said, Take her out, and let her be burned. But when they had brought her out, she sent to say to her father-in-law, I am pregnant by the one whose these things are. And she said, Find out whose seal and bandage and cane these things are. Judah found out and said, She is more right than me, because I did not give her to Shelah my son, and he did not know her any more. At the time of her delivery it appeared that the twins were in her womb. And it came to pass at the time of her delivery, that her hand was senile, and the midwife took it, and fastened a red thread upon its arm, saying, This one came out first. But he returned his hand on, and behold, his brother came out. And she said, How did you break your barrier? And his name was called Pharez. Then his brother came out with a red thread on his hand. And Joseph was taken to Egypt, and was bought out of the hands of the Ishmaelites. Had brought him there by Potiphar the Egyptian king of Pharaoh, head of the bodyguards. And the Lord was with Joseph, for he was successful in business, and dwelt in the house of his master, the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that whatever he did, the Lord gave success in his hands. And Joseph won favor in his eyes, and served him, and he set him over his house, and gave all that he had into his hands. And from that time that he set him over his house, and over all that he had, the Lord blessed the house of the Egyptian for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hands, and knew nothing in his presence but the bread that he ate, And Joseph was handsome in stature and handsome in countenance. And the wife of his lord turned her eyes toward Joseph, and said, Sleep with me. But he refused, and said to her lord's wife, Behold, my lord knows nothing in my house, and has given all he has into my hands. And he forbade me nothing but you, because you are his wife. How then shall I do this great wrong, and sin in the sight of God? When she spoke thus daily to Joseph, and he disobeyed her, to sleep with her, and to be with her. One day he came into the house to do his work, and none of the household was there. So she grabbed him by his cloak, and said, Come lie down with me. But he left his clothes in her hands, and ran out. And when she saw that he had left his clothes in her hands, she ran out. So she called her household, and said to them, Look, he has brought a Hebrew to us to argue with us. He came to me to lie down with me. But I cried out with a loud voice, and when he heard that I cried out and cried out, he left his garment with me, and ran out. And I left his garment with him until his master came into his house. And she recounted to him the same words, saying, A Hebrew servant whom you have brought to us has come to me to scold me. But when I cried out and cried out, he left his garment with me, and fled away. And when his master heard the words of his wife, which she had spoken to him, saying, Thus has your servant done this to me, he became furious. And his master took Joseph and put him in prison, where the king's prisoners are imprisoned. And he was there in the prison. And the Lord was with Joseph, and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the eyes of the governor of the prison. And the captain of the prison put all the prisoners in the prison into Joseph's hands, and in everything they did there he was a steward. And the captain of the prison did not look after anything that was in his hands, for the Lord was with Joseph, and in everything he did the courier of the king of Egypt and the baker were guilty before their master, the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was wroth against his two stewards, against the chief courier and against the chief baker. And he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard in prison, the place where Joseph was confined. And the captain of the bodyguards put Joseph in their custody, and he served them, and they were kept in custody for some time. Now behold, a courier and a baker of the king of Egypt had a dream while they were both imprisoned in prison. And Joseph came to them in the morning, and saw them, and behold, they were troubled. And he asked the princes of Pharaoh, who were with him in his master's house under guard, saying, Why are your faces sad today? And they said to him, We have been dreaming dreams, and there is no one to interpret them. And Joseph said to them, Are not these interpretations from God? And the chief courier told his dream to Joseph, and said to him, I have dreamed. Behold, a vine is before me. And in the vine 3 branches were grown, and flowers appeared on it, and the grapes thereon went up and ripened. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes, and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said to him, This is the interpretation thereof. The 3 branches are 3 days. In 3 days Pharaoh will lift up thy head, and will restore thee to thy place, and thou shalt offer Pharaoh's cup into his hand, according to the old custom, when thou wast his courier. But thou shalt remember me when it is good for thee, and thou shalt do me good, and shalt mention me unto Pharaoh, and shalt bring me out of this house. For I am stolen out of the land of the Hebrews, and neither have I done anything here for which to cast me into prison. The chief baker saw that his interpretation was good, and he said to Joseph, I also dreamed, behold, I have 3 baskets of lattice on my head, and in the uppermost basket was all the food of Pharaoh, the produce of the baker, and the birds did eat it out of the basket upon my head. And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. In 3 days Pharaoh shall take off thy head, and shall hang thee on a tree, and the birds shall peck thy flesh from thee. On the 3rd day, Pharaoh's birthday, he made a feast for all his servants, and he remembered the chief courier and the chief baker among his servants. And he returned the chief courier to his former place, and he put the cup in Pharaoh's hand, and he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. And the chief courier did not remember Joseph, but forgot him.